Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are reviewing the brand new 2022 Specialized Crux. Now, some of you might have seen my first look and first ride on this bike when it launched late last year, and that's linked above in case you want to go back and watch it. But today, after 2 months of riding this very lovely S-Works model, the range topping model no less, I'm going to tell you what it's like to ride. So performance, handling, what that low weight is like, and how it compares to the old bike, and whether it can actually be a gravel bike as well as a cross race bike. So a bike that can dance on a cross race circuit, but also crush gravel as well. But first, let's go through the frame details on this bike and talk about what's what. Okay, let's dive in. To me, this bike just looks right. And I have to admit, it is love at first sight. There's the lingering appeal of simple round tubes, non-dropped rear stays, visible cables and external seat clamps and bottom brackets. It just works, it just looks right. And all that convention is even more impressive when you remember that Specialized is very heavily invested in aerodynamics. They have their own wind tunnel, and the Tarmac SL7 is a 7th generation of their lightweight but now aero race bike. So this bike, not to pursue aerodynamics, is quite impressive. But to better understand the Crux, you first have to understand the ethos. Now the ethos is one of the lightest production road bikes currently available and launched 2 years ago, and was the result of very intense computer simulations to develop a super lightweight carbon frame. And that ethos has a 585 gram claimed frame weight, much lighter than the 750 to 850 that is regular for a high-end road race bike. And a byproduct of that pursuit of weight and not aero was a frame with very round tubes, non-drop rear stays and external cable routing in a way that really harks back to some classic and now iconic road race bikes like the Super 6 Evo for an example, or the Parley Z1 and a few other top-level road race bikes that have this simple, elegant profile. And all that carbon fiber technology and development has been brought pretty much wholesale over to the Crux, and it does look like an ethos with big fat tyres, similar tube profiles, non-drop rear stays, shared features, and a shared focus on super low weight. But while the ethos is 585 grams, this is 725 grams, which is still damn light. Very impressive weight indeed, which in a complete bike like this, no pedals, size 56, very top end kit, gives you a bike that weighs just 7.25 kilograms, which is worth saying is lighter than many road bikes. It's lighter than my giant TCR Advanced. Now, while weight was a big focus for this bike, the Crux, as you probably know, has always been a cyclocross race bike. A bike designed for 1 hour of racing around a muddy course, very popular in Belgium, but also here in the UK and North America as well. But while cross is really popular, gravel is even more popular. And for many years before gravel bikes really became popular, many people used cross bikes with bigger tyres for gravel riding. So while Specialized have made this bike even better and lighter for a cross racer, they've also given it a few gravel modifications to make it a more versatile bike. So while it's still good on a cross race circuit, it's now even better when you take it away from the frantic hour of hell that is cross racing in my experience, to a wider appeal of gravel racing, gravel riding and exploring. So the big change on this bike is a massively increased tyre clearance. From 36 or 38 on the old bike, I think, from memory, depending on the rim and tyre combination, but a bike designed around the 33mm UCI legal cross race tyre, up to a whopping 47, which is the same as the Diverge, the US company's dedicated gravel adventure bike packing model. So bigger tyre clearance, that gives you more options for gravel riding, but also means for cross racing, you have vastly increased mud clearance around the rear stays, around the bottom bracket area, so the frame won't clog up with mud as quickly. And that's great if you're a privateer racer, you've got one bike, you don't have a pit crew and a spare bike, you're on the one bike and less chance of getting clogged up and weighed down by mud sticking to the frame and parts of the bike. The other less visible change to make it better suited to gravel riding is the geometry. So it's a little bit longer, a little bit slacker in the head angle, and a little bit lower in the bottom bracket, combined with a shorter stem. Give you a bit more stable planted handling off-road when doing gravel riding. But the geometry is still aggressive compared to most gravel bikes, and definitely leans more towards cross racing with a side order of gravel rather than a super laid back and super stretch gravel adventure bikepacking option. And no changes, as we'll find out later when we go for a ride, make it much better suited to gravel riding than ever before. Okay, let's talk about how the bike rides then. And well, to be honest, it doesn't take more than 5 seconds to realise this bike is something special. And it's all down to the lack of weight. Now, I know weight isn't everything when it comes to riding bikes, but on this bike, the lack of weight really defines how this new Crux rides. And my goodness, is it fast? Is it ever? It screams down the trails. But in my experience, it's more at home on twisting wooden trails where the low weight and that stiff frame really lets it accelerate like the clappers out of the corners and get right back up the speed. On more stereotypical gravel, I don't think it's as fast as an aero gravel bike like a Cervelo Aspero or a 3T Explorer Race Max, to name a couple of examples, where aero at the high speed you can do on those sort of wide, flat, expansive gravel tracks is really appealing. And that instant acceleration you get as soon as you push on the cranks just gives you amazing speed out of the corners. It gets up to speed so quickly, no hesitation, and it just makes you push harder and harder until you're out of breath. And that low weight means you can conquer some big climbs as well, and helped by the Explorer gearing, you can really tackle some chunky off-road climbs. The only limitation are your Pathfinder tyres, but fit a knobblier tyre and you can tackle any terrain. Just riding across a golf course, as you do, mind the tee, or the green, or whatever you call it, flag in a hole. I must admit I haven't done any cross racing on this bike, but I have fitted narrow tyres to see how it cope very well, and it has been doing pretty well in the hands of a very fast top level cross race athlete. So I think that box is fairly firmly ticked. More of my clearance from the bigger tyre clearance and a lighter frame, what is not to like? But for me, I've been more interested and intrigued around the capabilities as a gravel bike. Now, the old Crux was a very good bike for cross, but also for off-road riding, gravel, adventure, whatever you want to call it. But it has limitations. This new bike though removes those limitations or moves them further away. So you have a bigger tyre clearance, and that's a good thing. More choice for fitting wide tyres to suit your terrain. And the geometry, longer, lower, slacker, but still a long way from a pure adventure gravel bike like the company's own Diverge. So still a very racy, tight, compact, darty feeling bike. But when you come to tackle some more unpredictable off-road terrain, whether stereotypical gravel or here in the UK where I live, roots, rocks, mud and everything in between, the bike copes so much better and it's so much more fun. The bigger tyres help of course, but the geometry just gives you a bit more confidence to really let the speed go, to let go of the brakes, to really let you explore the trails you want to ride a gravel bike on and have a lot more fun away from a cross circuit. So 2 bikes in 1, or 3 if you include road riding, which this bike is very good at. Yes, that's right. Even with the Pathfinder tyres on, this bike is extremely rapid on the road and isn't much slower than a road bike. And go a step further and fit some slick road tyres, and you do have a road bike. You don't have the same geometry as the Athos, and it's a bit heavier, but if you want a gravel bike that can also be a road bike, this is probably one of the better contenders in the marketplace than some other gravel bikes I reviewed on the channel over the past year. So 2 bikes in 1, 3 bikes in 1? Yeah, I think so. However, it's not all rosy, and the comfort of this bike is what is really lacking from the platform. Simply put, it's not as smooth as the company's own Diverge with a Future Shock or many other gravel bikes on the market right now. Yes, the frame is super low weight, but it's also super stiff, and the wheels are stiff as well. And you really have to use the big tyres at low pressures with tubeless sealant to get the comfort to make this a bike you can enjoy on long multi-hour rides and not get beaten up after an hour or two. And that's a big compromise to the bike. I mean, it's not designed to be a smooth gravel crushing bike. It's a bike that dances over the gravel due to that low weight. Another obvious benefit of how light this bike is that you can easily carry it over your shoulder, no problem at all. Although the round top tube does dig into your shoulder a bit, but I rather ride over any obstacle if I can than carry it. But if you have to carry it, it's not so bad. It's also not as versatile as a Diverge or other gravel bikes, although it's not meant to be. But a set of mudguard mounts would have been fantastic in my opinion, even with fat tyres on. Some mudguards for winter gravel riding would have made this bike, I think, even more appealing. And you can't fit extra bottles and bags and racks so easily, but you can put some strap-on bags, the tail fin if you're going bike packing in the summer. So there are ways around the lack of versatility baked into this new Crux. I don't think I recommend this bike for everybody in the market for a gravel bike this year. I think for most people, in my opinion, the Diverge is a better option. More versatility, more comfort, a more rounded, accessible package. Ideal for bike packing, adventure, exploring, all that sort of stuff. This bike though, I think it's for the rider who doesn't want to go bike packing, doesn't like the idea of strapping all the bags and weight onto their bike, but wants to do a bit of off-roading while retaining the speed they're used to from a road bike and the precision and geometry and fit that's also similar to a road bike, and might prefer the idea of cross racing than gravel exploring. So quite a niche bike really, but it's a bike that if it works for you and you get it, it's absolutely sensational. Now, as much as I love riding this bike and I'm blown away by the performance and the handling, and I'd happily own it, it does cost a ton of money. This range-topping S-Works bike is over £10,000, or a number that starts with 12 if you're watching in the US. So a lot of money, but it's worth, before you rush down to the comments to complain about the price of bikes at the moment, it does start from just over £4,000 for a low spec model. And I think the pick of the range is the SRAM Rival E-TAP model, which is the one I go for, and a really nice looking paint job on that bike as well. But this is a range top model with all the toys, all the goodies, and it weighs 7.25 kilograms on the scales. So if you can afford it, you are getting the best of the best. And that includes a set of Roval Terra, really super lightweight wheels, sub 1400 gram wheels, tubeless compatible, nice wide profile, external nipples, blaze spokes, nice reliable hubs in my experience, and a fast engaging free hub. And then we have SRAM's Red E-TAP Explore group set. So we've got a new 1044 cassette on the back, gives really good range for going up and down, good on the race circuit where you have the close ratios of a new cassette, but also good for exploring, doing gravel adventure riding with bigger hills and a bit of extra weight on the bike, whether a seat pack or a frame pack to give you the space for cargo you might need. These Pathfinder tyres are a good option for road and really smooth gravel. Got a slick center section, so the speed is good and the speed comes easily, but we have quite an aggressive shoulder section for slippery corners, so plenty of bite when you lean over in the bends. But I changed the tyres for something more suitable to the conditions at the moment, which is pretty muddy. So I went to a wider 42, like a WTB Verstaility was a good option. But the beauty of a bike with clearance for up to a 47mm wide tyre, you can fit any tyre that suits the gravel that you are riding. And I know gravel does vary depending where you live. In the UK, it varies massively from one area to another. You don't have to go far before the gravel changes hugely. Or in Europe, Australia, or America, or wherever you're watching. Look, proper gravel. And on this subject of tyre choice, let me know what tyres you choose by leaving a comment down below. Then the rest of the kit, we have a Roval Terra carbon fibre handlebar, nice compact drop and short reach, very nice super cast bar tape, very grippy and tactile, and a super lightweight Alpinist seat post, which comes from the ASOS. They do a Terra version, which gives a bit more compliance as well. And then we have a really nice comfy saddle, nice short stubby nose saddle. And I have to say that Specialized do finishing kit and details really well. So the bar tape, the saddle, there's nothing on this bike I would change. Just put your pedals of preference on, a bottle cage, and off you go. Some bikes from some manufacturers, you might have to change the saddle, might have to change a bar tape or a handlebar, but not with Specialized. They get the details right, and I have to commend Specialized for getting the details absolutely spot on. It does pay me to say this because this bike is jolly expensive and I can't afford it, but I simply love this new Specialized Crux. And I have to commend Specialized for what they've done to the bike in bringing all that ethos carbon fiber tech to a bike and creating a super low weight cross stroke gravel bike, giving it a bigger tyre clearance, modifying the geometry, but creating a bike that doesn't crush gravel but dances over gravel. It's so fast, the speed comes so easily, and it's such an exciting bike to ride, and it really gets your sensations flowing in a way that few other gravel and adventure bikes do. But on the downside, the comfort is nowhere near as good as the Diverge with the Future Shock up front, and not as versatile. You can't fit mud guards or other racks and bottles and bags as easily. But if you're not interested in bike packing and that side of adventure riding, and you want a bike that can be as fast as your road bike or even replace your road bike, but can still do a reasonable amount of gravel really well, then I think the Crux and the changes on this new bike make it a really compelling option. Yes, it can still do business in a cross race like the old bike, but it's so much better away from the cross circuit than the old bike and makes it a bike that appeals to more people, in my opinion. And that really is what Specialized were trying to achieve with the new Crux. Retain and improve that cross race focus, but make it even better away from the cross circuit for gravel riding, for exploring, for mixing up your road riding with off-road riding, all road, gravel, whatever you want to call it. This bike does it really well. But there's no getting away from the fact this range-topping S-Works bike is a serious wedge of cash. But I can't help thinking, if I had a lower spec model here instead, maybe the SRAM Rival ETAP Access model, which might be my personal pick of the entire range, the conversation and debate around price and value for money might have a very different outcome. This, of course, is a halo product, a real showcase, the best of the best. And hopefully those low spec models will offer much of the performance that this bike demonstrates in my hands. You'd like to think so anyway. Hopefully that's something I find out in a future review. I'd love to try this in a more affordable spec. Anyway, that's my review of the brand new 2022 Specialized Crux. Do let me know what you think, and if you have any questions, by leaving a comment down below. And if you want to see some more reviews of other gravel bikes I reviewed here on Just Road Bikes, then check on this video up here. And don't forget to subscribe by hitting this button just here. Right, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. And hopefully it's a bit warmer because it's chuffing cold out here today. So I'm going off to warm up.